Hey, what is up everyone? Today I'm going to be covering a strategy that I use to take down 5-star, 6-star, and even 7-star raids with a one-hit KO. The one-hit KO is meant so you can take them down from their full health all the way down to 0, bypassing the shield phase of the raid entirely. The strategy uses between 2 and 3 people, and I will get into the details to follow. To start off, we'll cover the attacking Pokemon. The 5 attacking Pokemon for your raid team are as follows: Paldean, Tauros, Water and Fire, Primeape, Krookodile, and Crabominable. These 5 Pokemon are all physical attackers with the ability Anger Point, and the ability Anger Point allows your attack stat to reach a +6 value upon receiving a critical hit. The critical hit can come from the raid Pokemon or from a teammate, and in this case, your first teammate is going to be criticaling you 100% of the time to instantly maximize your attack. All of these Pokemon have either Leer or Screech, which will reduce the defense of the raid Pokemon. And the way the Pokemon calculator works is if your attack stat is at 400% and their defense is at 25%, you're effectively dealing 1600% damage, which allows you to one-hit KO a lot of raid Pokemon right off the bat. Earlier I said the Pokemon have either Leer or Screech. They can also have Tailwhip. Tailwhip and Leer are interchangeable in this case. Let's take a deeper dive into these Anger Point Pokemon. Paldean Tauros of the Water variety has perfect stats in everything except special attack. It is effort trained maximally in physical attack and HP. It has the Anger Point ability and Life Orb as a held item. Its moveset is Close Combat, Tail Whip, Wave Crash, and Rain Dance. Rain Dance or Tail Whip can be used off the bat while you're waiting for your teammate to critical hit you to either lower the defense of the raid Pokemon or up the damage of your Wave Crash move. Close Combat is for coverage against anything weak to fighting. Tail Whip can be used again alongside support Pokemon who also have moves to lower defense to get the opposing raid Pokemon down to -4 or -6 defense, depending on how bulky it is, and ensure a one-hit KO. Paldean Tauros of the Fire variety is the same as the Water one, moveset and all. The only difference is your weather is Sun over Rain, and your move is Flare Blitz over Wave Crash. Everything between them is identical. Thirdly, we have Primeape. Again, Adamant Nature, same as the first two. Life Orb is a held item, and it has Rage Fist if you want to use it with a mouse hold support strategy, where you take a Population Bomb and max that up to 350 base power Ghost. It has Protect if you need to buy a turn, Close Combat for its same type attack bonus, but this one is different because it has Screech, which does lower the opponent's defense by 2 stages. So in this case, you can use Screech while your teammate is putting a critical hit on you, and then the turn after, they can use Leer or Screech, and then you can Close Combat for a clean KO most of the time on anything that's weak to it. After Primeape, we have Krookodile. Krookodile is Adamant Nature with a Life Orb as a held item, same EV training, attack and HP, and it has Leer to cut the defense, Power Trip, which is a 20 base power dark move that increases by 20 base power per stat modifier. When your Anger Point activates and you go to +6 attack, you will now have 140 base damage dark move, which does a lot of damage even on neutral hits. You have Earthquake for your other same type attack bonus, and then Gunk Shot is purely a filler move. Finally, we have Crabominable. This one is a Brave Nature with a Life Orb instead of Adamant, because you want your speed stat to be as low as possible for raids. And you have Ice Hammer, which is a 90% accurate ice move with 100 base damage, but most of the time you're actually going to be using Avalanche. Since the raid Pokemon will likely be faster than you, it will double damage to 120 and just be a lot better and more consistent overall without the chance of missing. You have Leer to drop their defense, and Close Combat should you just need to use a fighting stat. Here we have the Pokemon type calculator. We're going to use it to find out what super effective coverage we can get with all of our Anger Point Pokemon. We're using both breeds of Paldean Tauros, Crabominable, Krookodile, and Primeape. So let's start off with the Bulls. We have Fighting, Fire, and Water coverage from them. We add on Ice for Crabominable, Dark and Ground for Krookodile, and Ghost for Rage Fist from Primeape. As you can see here, Ghost from Primeape is rather redundant and does not get us any extra super effective hits. However, Primeape is the only pure fighting Anger Point Pokemon, and as such, if you want to drop a secondary weakness and still use Ghost, you can. Let's take a look at our 2 options for the first support Pokemon that has to land a critical hit. We have Honchkrow as option 1, and Froslass as option 2. Both of them require an evolutionary stone to evolve, and I would actually recommend catching them as a random wild Pokemon so you can try to get a lower stat than a 31 or a best in their attack or special attack stat. For example, this Froslass is a 1 in special attack. Both of them have a guaranteed crit move, Night Slash or Frost Breath respectively, Screech or Leer to drop defenses, and other supporting moves that follow along with that. So let's take a look at Honchkrow first. Honchkrow has perfect HP and defense training, and the nature cuts its attack stat and adds speed. You could swap that over to a bold nature, which will still cut your attack stat and add physical defense if you need to have a little bit more bulk. Your two mandatory moves are going to be Night Slash to activate Anger Point on any of the Anger Point users, and Screech, which will drop the defense stat of the Raid Pokemon. Comeuppance and Foul Play are more or less coverage moves should the Raid hiccup a little bit and you need to do some damage with the bird. Since your defense invested, this does damage off of the opponent's attack stat, and this does damage based off of what the Pokemon can do to you. You need to ensure you have the Super Luck ability, as well as the Razor Claw, so that your crit chance is 100% with Night Slash. Taking a look at Froslass, Froslass EV training is much simpler. Just HP and speed with a Jolly nature to cut your special attack, and then you have Frost Breath as your critical hit move. You also have Leer to drop the defense, similar to how Honchkrow has Screech, and then you can use Snowscape, which will boost the defense of Froslass, as well as Crabominable if you're using it alongside that, and you can set up Aurora Veil afterwards should you need to buy more time for your team to not get KO'd. The item for this one is actually flexible. I have not assigned an item to this one, I have not found a need to so far, but I can imagine you could make use of a Focus Sash or a Leftovers, depending on your playstyle. Here's some footage from a 6-star Toxapex Raid with the Tera type of fire. This is included to show a stress test of how you can stack up Rage Fist on Primeape. Here's a damage calculation representing what Primeape did to the Fire Tera 6-star Toxapex. Plus 6 attack from Anger Point, 5 hits on Rage Fist to put the base damage of that to 300 power Ghost, minus 6 defense to Toxapex, and our damage range is 2290% to 2694. 2500 being the cutoff for a clean KO, but there was already a chip happening due to the NPC Haxorus attacking it. Here's our 6-star raid of the day. Hippowdon with an Ice Tera type. We're going to be using a Paldean Tauros of the Fire variety for this raid. We're choosing to do that over Primeape because Paldean Tauros with Sunny Day allows its fire moves to hit 50% harder. We'll start off with Sunny Day from the Tauros and a Night Slash onto Tauros from the Honchkrow. This will give us Weather to boost our fire moves and a plus 6 attack stat. Hippowdon will yawn us, putting the entire board to sleep in one turn's time, allowing us one more turn to get stat debuffs onto it before we all fall asleep. We'll Tail Whip and Screech here to drop its defense by 3 stages. Now as the entire board is asleep, one of the players has to use a Heal Cheer. In this case, we'll be using the Heal Cheer from Tauros. This will allow Honchkrow to wake up and use Screech one more time. However, Honchkrow's Screech has missed, so Honchkrow has to go for one more Screech in order to get the Hippowdon to a minus 5 stat. And because of this, Tauros has to wait and not Flare Blitz immediately. Now the Screech is hit, Tauros is free to KO. Here are the two calculations we ran for the Ice Tera type Hippowdon Raid. First we have Primeape at +6 attack and Hippowdon at -6 defense, with an impish nature to simulate it having a defense boosting nature. It's at this point that Primeape cannot reach the 2500% threshold. When we compare that to Tauros, Tauros at +6 attack and Hippowdon at -5 defense due to 2 screeches and 1 tailwhip, with Sunny Day in effect, Tauros hits at above 2800%, which is a clean one-hit KO. I wanted to touch on a couple Pokemon and abilities that do give this anger point strategy a little bit of trouble, namely Pokemon with abilities that reduce stat drops, or that reflect them back upon the user. Corviknight with Mirror Armor, Garganacl with Clear Body, and Dondozo with Unaware are all difficult Pokemon to fight. Unaware ignores your attack buffs, where Clear Body and Mirror Armor make it so you cannot debuff them. The way to get around this is to have a Pokemon able to skill swap away their ability with something more useless, such as Gothitelle with Frisk. Once you can do that, you can get the clean one-hit KO after all the stat drops and raises as necessary. Before we end out this video, I wanted to touch on one more critical support Pokemon you can choose to use, and that Pokemon happens to be none other than Meowscarada. Meowscarada has access to the move Flower Trick, which is a grass move that has a guaranteed critical hit chance and bypasses all accuracy checks. It also has access to Helping Hand, to make its teammate hit 50% harder, and access to Tailwhip, which allows it to lower the raid Pokemon's defense stat. This Pokemon is great, but I would only recommend running it alongside the Paldean Tauros of the Fire variety, as all of these other Pokemon are either weak to grass, or will not take the hit very well. Another support Pokemon I didn't touch on earlier in the video is Murkrow. Murkrow, as it is unevolved, can hold Eviolite to increase its defenses by 50%. It also has access to the ability Prankster, which allows its Screech move to go first before any other Pokemon on the field. Prankster is blocked by Dark types, by Tera Shields, by the abilities Queenly Majesty and Armor Tail, and by Psychic Terrain on grounded Pokemon. That is why this Pokemon is not covered earlier in the video, but it does make for some cheeky turn 1 one-hit KOs where you can otherwise not get them if you have a group of 3 people. That's all I got for today, everyone. Hopefully these Pokemon can make it to your raid roster and help you in taking down those high-star raids. Thanks for watching, and happy raiding!